What's up, everybody? All right, so in 2020, firearm injuries became the leading cause of mortality in children 1 to 19 years of age, surpassing motor vehicle crashes. About 1 in 3 children in the United States live in a home with a firearm, and despite that, only about 20% of primary care visits do effective screening and counseling for gun ownership. So first, we're going to go over the 6 L's of gun ownership to keep kids safe. And then second, we're going to dispel some common myths or debunk some common myths that parents often have. To get right into it. Okay, so the first one, people are going to be pissed and cancel me, but the first L of gun ownership is to lose it. And don't literally lose it, but if you are willing or able to get rid of the gun or have it out of the home while you're raising your child, this is probably the single best thing you can do to reduce the risk of injury to your child. The AAP recommends it, and it can reduce the risk by 2 to 4-fold. The second and the third actually have to do with gun storage. So you want to keep the gun stored unloaded and in a locked place. So only about 44% of gun owners store it this way, which is the safest way. And then 15% of gun owners, and this represents about 4.6 million children's households, actually store it in the least secure way, which is loaded and unlocked. If you store it safely, you can reduce the risk of injury by 80 to 85%. The fourth L is little, so just never assume that your child is too young or too weak to be able to get themselves in trouble with a gun. The data shows that 25% of 3-year-olds are strong enough to pull a trigger, and that goes up to 70% of 5 to 6-year-olds. The next L is low, which refers to depression or a low mood. So for younger children, unintentional injury is usually most common, but as you get older, actually completed suicide or intentional injury becomes a greater risk. So if you know someone in the home, or if your child is depressed, or you're depressed, or anyone in the home is depressed, you want to have extra caution about your gun practices and storage strategies to make sure that they don't hurt themselves. And the last one is learned. So this is for you as an owner and for your children as well. So if you're somebody who is going to have your child handling guns, then of course teaching them good practices and safe practices is important. But it's critical to know that this does not override the other L's. So this is in addition to, but should never replace, the safe storage, the awareness of little children, or awareness of moods in the home. Now we're going to go through a couple statements or common myths really that parents often say and talk about any data that we have that sort of dispels them. So the first one is, my child doesn't know where the gun is hidden. Well, they did this study where they asked 420 pairs of parents and children different questions. When they asked, does your child know where the gun is? About 39% of the time, when the parents thought the child did not know where the gun is, when they asked the child, they actually did know the correct location. And worse than that, 22% of the time, when the parents thought that the child had never handled the gun before, they actually had handled it, played with it, or put themselves at risk. The second one, my child is too weak to pull the trigger. We talked about this before, but just to reiterate, 25% of 3-year-olds can pull a trigger. That goes up to 70% of 5 or 6-year-olds. Next is that my child knows a real gun from a toy. 16% of unintentional firearm injuries that happen less than 13 years of age occur when the child is handling what they think is a toy, but is in fact a real gun. This goes up to about 1 in 3, so 28% of these injuries in the 0 to 5 age group. And then this last one is probably going to be the most controversial, or I'll get the most flack for, but it's basically the idea that a gun in the home makes my family safer. And so I'm going to read this to make sure I get the data right. But basically there was an article that showed that for every time a gun is used in the home in a valid act of self-defense or legally justifiable shooting, there were 4 unintentional shootings, 7 criminal assaults or homicides, and 11 attempted or completed suicides. And so I know every person is different, but the data is pretty strong here, that no matter the intention of the gun owner, it does increase the risk of people in the household. So I hope that all was helpful. Again, the goal here is really not to be political, it's not to judge, it's just to offer healthy awareness. And so if you are a gun owner, what are some best practices you can do to keep your children safe? Thanks.